Hey, world history. Welcome to U2-L3, the Old Kingdom. So, the Old Kingdom was between the dates of 2686 to 2160 BCE. So, before we begin today's Ed puzzle, I have just some couple questions for you. So, how is world history course going for you? Do you have any questions about the course and work? How are the Ed puzzles? If you don't got anything to say, you can just say like none or I don't have any or I don't know, whatever, something like that. All right, so your job is you're going to follow along with your study guide. Any important concept will be in red text, so make sure you write that down in your study guide. Any question that is in blue text today will be questions I want you to answer directly on the Ed puzzle. So, learning targets describe the development, characteristics, and decline of civilizations in Egypt. So you might be like, wait, Miss Corey, what the heck do you even know about ancient Egypt? Ooh, that's a good question, me. So I have a degree in ancient history, so it's a Bachelor of Arts in Ancient History. I do not know everything about Egypt. That is really clear. And I probably don't know as much as I did since I've been out of college, but I do have 7 books about ancient Egypt. I took the history class about ancient Egypt, and my thesis paper is about ancient Egypt. So I do like ancient Egypt. It's super cool. So, like I said before, 2686 to 2160 BCE. During this time, that is when those really famous pyramids were built. And foreign relations with Lebanon, Libya, and Nubia are also topics that we will touch on today. But first, let's get to the pyramids, probably like the most famous thing about ancient Egypt. So, the question is, why should we study these big triangles? Great question. So there was a lot of Egyptian math and technology that went into building these massive pyramids. Also, the royal power, so how their society was structured. Egyptian wealth, because it took a lot of money and a lot of resources to make those pyramids. Also, human organization, that's a big one. Government control, the glorification of the pharaoh, right? Because the pyramids are dedicated to a pharaoh, and religious temples within. The not so great parts of the pyramid is that tombs typically have very few inscriptions. So, inscriptions are like writing that is carved into the wall. So, the pyramids don't have a lot of information about who the pharaohs were and what was life like during that time period. Also, pyramids were robbed a lot. Even much so that the mummies would actually be taken, which I don't know why, because why would you want a dead body? That's weird, but whatever. So, the 3 most famous pyramids are the Great Pyramids of Giza. So, those big 3 ones right here. So, here is a map of the pyramids of Giza. So, this is a bird's eye view. So, name one thing you notice on the map about the Pyramid of Giza's site. Well, there's quite a bit going on in this map. So there are 3 main pyramids. Uh, the first one up here, up top, is called the Pyramid of Khufu. That would have been the father. And then the son, so Khufu's son, is Khafra, and that's his pyramid right there in the middle. And then the smaller pyramid would be the Pyramid of Menkaura. And that would be like Khufu's grandson or Khafra's son. That's that. You'll also notice that there are 3 tinier little pyramids. Those were pyramids of the 3 main queens that Menkaura had. So in Egypt, they were polygamous, meaning they could marry like multiple people. You will also see that there's a lot more graves around this area too. So political and royal figures would be buried over here in tombs. You'll also see that there's a causeway or like a walkway between the Sphinx and the entrance to the temple of the pyramid. There's also boats that have been buried in front of the pyramids, which is really interesting. That typically signifies the boats for the afterlife, but also to show like military power. Um, Let's see, is there anything else? Oh, yes. Probably one of the most important things to talk about would be the builder's quarters. So you're probably thinking, like, how are these pyramids built? Well, that is still a really, really good question that a lot of Egyptologists still don't know the answer to. But the probability is it was built by slaves or enslaved people, and they would like hang out here when they're not building the pyramid. Like that's where they lived. It's not 100% sure of who built the pyramids, but enslavement seems to be probably the most probable answer to that. You'll also see over here that there's the Great Sphinx. That's the one with its nose chipped off. That is located right there. So again, here's a photo of the pyramids, so you can see them all here, and then there's 3 smaller queen pyramids. All right, so here's a list of all the Old Kingdom rulers. If you're curious, you can look at it. I won't go through all of them because we'd be here forever and ever. So let's talk about foreign relations in the Old Kingdom. So the Old Kingdom is going to be a lot more isolated than the Middle or New Kingdom, meaning they didn't interact with outside Egyptian forces as much as in the Middle and New Kingdoms. Um, they were typically very peaceful with nations in the Middle East. The only 2 exceptions to that would be Nubia and Libya. So you're probably like, where the heck is Nubia? Great question. So Nubia is just south of Egypt in what would be like modern day Sudan, and then Libya is over here. So the Old Kingdom, they would create boats to sail to Lebanon. So they would like sail from here to Lebanon, which is up here. The reason for that is Egypt doesn't have a lot of trees. Lebanon has quite a few trees, so they are getting their timber from Lebanon. And they also would peacefully occupy the Sinai Peninsula, which is right here. It's called the Sinai Peninsula. And in the Sinai Peninsula, you would find goods such as turquoise and copper. And Egyptian made goods have been found as far away as Syria, which is up here. So we know Egyptians traded all along this coast. All right, so Nubia. I talked about this before, but it is the area of land just south of Egypt, what would be northern day or modern day northern Sudan. And during the Old Kingdom, it was not unified at all. It was pretty much just made up of chiefdoms, so they didn't have like a king to rule everything. And a major region within Nubia would be this kind of pinkish color, and that was called yam. So yam was super duper important because there was a lot of very expensive, hard to come by goods. One of the big ones would be frankincense. Now you're probably like, frankincense? And if you're familiar with like Christianity and like the Bible story of what Jesus got, frankincense was one of his like gifts that he got when he was born. So frankincense is actually like tree sap from the frankincense tree, and it is very expensive even to this day. Same thing with myrrh. There would be animal skins, gold, ivory, and also ebony wood, which is that really like dark colored wood. So Pharaoh Pepi II sent his military commander to raid Nubia for materials, but also to capture the Nubian people for slavery. All right, so wrap up. Today we learned about the characteristics of the Old Kingdom, pyramids, and Nubia. We skipped a lot about the Old Kingdom, but if you have questions, comments, or want to learn more, do let me know. There's also the optional weekly check-in. Next up, you're going to do U2-L3 Middle Kingdom Ed Puzzle. All right, thanks for watching.